All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. It's Sam Bushman for Liberty United. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. We've got an incredible guest today. His name is Mark Skousen, and he's well known for the leader of FreedomFest, but he's also well known as a financial guru and expert. He's been in the liberty movement forever. He's been in the financial movement forever, too. I don't mean to age him. I'm just telling you his experience exceeds most, if not all of us. But we love to go to Freedom Fest. There's all kinds of liberty-minded libertarians and constitutionalists and people that matter the most everywhere they go. Mark, welcome to Liberty United, sir.
Well, it's a delight to be here, and I'm delighted that you can have me on and that you have a great following. We need more of United Liberty people to come to Freedom Fest and to make a difference in Utah.
Amen to that. Liberty United really is key about teaching principle over politics, really helping people understand what matters most, the Constitution, uniting not on partisan politics, but on things that matter most. And that's one of the key aspects of Freedom Fest, too, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't like labels at all. We're part of the no-label movement. We talk about free minds rather than closed-minded when it comes together, that you want to hear other perspectives, points of view. So we try to avoid the labels and focus on best solutions to our problems. We come together together rather than being divisive. We do have a lot of debates. We have a mock trial, but it's always civil debates, and it's not a yelling and screaming kind of situation that you often see on TV and other conferences. So it really is refreshing to hear other perspectives and being civil and not with the name calling and so forth that's so common, even by our president who likes to name call. So we try to stay away from that.
So would even invite Jerry Springer if he wouldn't fight, right?
I think Jerry Springer is dead, right?
Yes, it's just a joke on the difference in who we are. What I find interesting is, yes, there's lively debates and discussions and different opinions and panels and everything else, but people have a very cheerful disposition when they're there. People respect one another. It seems like a really unique group of people. A lot of them are libertarian. A lot of them are there for different reasons. Some for financial reasons. There's a great financial education to be had there. Some are there for health reasons. Some are there for the movies, huh?
Yeah, the Anthem Film Festival is surprisingly very popular. More and more people, it's standing room only to see these films that have been selected from all around the world. They've won awards. And then we always, my wife runs it, and she has panels afterwards. Very lively discussions. We're going to have ones. We have a couple of them from Iran this time.
Wow.
The Iranians are very much involved with our Freedom Fest conference and the freedom that's going on there. We have another one on vaccines. There's a lot of topics that really need to be discussed, and the film is a great vehicle to express those views. And then afterwards, we have a great civil discussion on these issues.
All right, so there's a lot of movies, Mark Skousen, at the Freedom Fest, which is incredible. You mentioned a movie about vaccines. Is Del Bigtree involved in that, or are we going to actually get RFK Jr. to come talk about it? What's happening there?
Well, Del Bigtree is very much a part of this film that Joanna's accepted for the Anthem Film Festival at Freedom Fest. And so, yeah, he plays a major role in this film. Robert F. Kennedy has spoken twice at Freedom Fest.
Yes, sir. I was there.
Yeah. And he's making waves when it comes to vaccines, that's for sure. And he's had a lot of pushback for his anti-vaccine points of view. But I think it's really healthy to see that sort of national dialogue going on rather than the suppression of evidence when people have been hurt by vaccines. So this is really an important film. We're sending out an invitation to have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. there, but since he's a cabinet member, it's more difficult to get him.
Yes, sir.
We do have Senator Rand Paul and his wife Kelly. They are coming. And we're hopeful to have Thomas Massie coming as well. That hasn't been confirmed yet because he's still in the primary process, but he indicates interest in coming if he wins the primary.
By the way, I watched the RFK Jr. speech at Freedom Fest. It was incredible. But I will also say this, I've done a lot of interviews over the last 30 years as I've been a talk host, radio and TV. I had Del Bigtree in your hall with me at Freedom Fest, and we had the biggest crowd I've ever had stand and stop and watch and gawk, and people were going about their business till they saw me and Del sit down. And man, I'm telling you, when we got done, there was a big old clap, and everybody was all applauding the interview. I mean, he did a phenomenal job.
And
as he
by the
continues
way,
to do.
he is coming to Freedom Fest. In fact, we've asked him to be the judge in the mock trial, and we're putting ICE on trial. And boy, that's going to be an interesting debate.
Wow, let's go. I hope I can be on the panel. All right, President Oaks, president of Liberty United with us. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So we're talking about Freedom Fest. What an incredible event it's going to be. It comes up July 8th through the 11th in Las Vegas. And I'm going to be there, and you're going to be there. But that's what we're talking about right now. And we talked about the film festival. We talked about we don't really want labels and names. And we just want to go there, get along, have a healthy discussions and debates, and just an incredible learning opportunity, Jacob.
Man, I'll tell you what, I can't speak highly enough of Freedom Fest. I've been to all sorts of conservative conferences. The of information plus the networking that happens at Freedom Fest. Mark, I got to give it to you. You've really produced something high quality.
Well, I have to give credit to my daughter Valerie and my wife Joanne. They are very much involved with the Freedom Fest conference. And the whole idea is that, we call it the 1% solution to the freedom struggle that's going on. And why do I say 1%? Because there's 3.5 days in Las Vegas, July 8th to 11th, and that's 1% of the year. And we all have interests, we have all different things we want to do, we have different organizations, businesses, but can we take 1% of the year to get together to learn, network, socialize, and celebrate liberty? And one of the things we're doing this year in the 250th anniversary is we have a large Liberty Bell there. And every time a person buys something or makes a contribution in the exhibit hall to one of our many freedom organizations, they get to come over to the Liberty Bell and they ring it. And I think there's going to be a lot of ringing to celebrate our 250 years of celebration. We also have the first edition of Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations that was also published in 1776. We call it the Declaration of Economic Independence, in his system of natural liberty and laissez-faire and everything that Adam Smith stood for. And so we have Rob Arnott, who is a top money manager who owns a copy of the first edition, and he's going to be bringing it to have that on display. We also have the Prager Freedom Truck coming, and they can walk in there and see various aspects of the freedom movement. We have Glenn Beck coming, who will bring some of his historic specimens from 1776. And so we're really looking forward to having Glenn Beck a part of our program. I mentioned Senator Rand Paul and his wife Kelly are coming. We have Kennedy as our MC. I mean, it goes on. The list. Steve Forbes is coming. John Mackey of Whole Foods Markets. The list is, listen to this. I want to tell you this. This is really exciting. We heard today that Students for Liberty put out a memo to all of its students and to offer scholarships to Freedom Fest. And within a day, 400 students have applied. And so we are really excited about having 400 to 500 students coming to Freedom Fest this year. We need funds because students, as you know, often plead poverty and can't spend on their own. So we are doing through Freedom 360 Foundation, which is a nonprofit organization for students. So if people are interested in that, they go to freedom360.org. And they can make a contribution to bring.
And how much is it to sponsor? If you say I want to sponsor a student, how much is
$1,000. We have 4 nights at a hotel. We have up to $400 for their transportation, and then there's some programming expenses and stuff like that. So our minimum is really per student. So we have to raise quite a bit of money. We already have one major donor who is funding $130,000 to bring students. So that's right there, 130 students that can make it. There's lots of, it's pretty exciting program that we're putting together here.
It gets more exciting by the day as more people jump aboard being part of Freedom Fest, Jacob.
Mark, it's funny you talk about ringing a bell. We actually had a civic committee in Liberty United. Was meeting with them just a couple of weeks ago about how we can kind of incorporate more team building, things like that in our organization. They had an idea of getting an actual bell we can ring because, as you know, in our logo, we have the Liberty Bell.
Yes, you do.
So we're excited to come, me and Sam, ring that bell, and Zach as well.
And let me also mention that the symbol of the French Revolution was the guillotine. The symbol of the American Revolution was the Liberty Bell, which is much more liberating than killing a bunch of people in the name of liberty. And that was a tragic event. And there was this huge difference between the American and the French Revolution. So it's pretty exciting what we're doing. And we'll have several hundred speakers and different programs and breakout sessions and so forth. I should mention we're offering $100 for everybody who's with United Liberty. I think that decided on United 100. Use that as a code. They can get $100 off at freedomfest.com.
United 100 at freedomfest.com, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
It should be United 1 billion, but I understand. United 100 at Fest, ladies and gentlemen. You can get your tickets to ride today, and I'm telling you, it will be a tremendous opportunity for not only for you to be able to focus on finance a little bit, as the economy is struggling and as the midterms are coming up, Mark, people can really get some guidance of how to kind of weather some of this, right?
Yeah, and in fact, we have a 3.5-day financial conference, and one of the speakers, we're actually having a special session on AI and robotics and some of the other things that are going on with the new technologies, because it's very controversial as to the jobs that are going to be created and destroyed. There's creative disruption going on with AI for sure. And there's a professor at Chapman University who's considered one of the premier experts on AI. And I just heard his lecture here at Chapman. He came to my class, and he had some of the most incredible slides on who's affected, who can escape the impact of AI. A wonderful couple of charts on that he's going to show at Freedom Fest. His name is Marshall Tuplansky, and Marshall is going to be coming to Freedom Fest. My son Tim, who's also an expert on technology, and we write the Future Technology Trader at the Oxford Club. He's a wealth of information that people can get about the impact that AI is going to have and the controversy surrounding it.
There's also a ton of people that'll be on the floor with booths, and that's really something too, to walk the floor and see who's all there and the new offerings that they have and what different organizations are doing. And I'm just telling you, that's a lot of fun too. That's where people just kind of learn about one another and talk and make friends and meet people. And the whole goal of it is that hopefully people will work together going forward, not just meet, greet, and retreat, but they'll really actually double down and take what they learn and the relationships that they develop and use those to continue to promote liberty, Mark.
You need to come visit the Liberty United booth along with Liberty Roundtable. We've both pairing to get a booth at Freedom Fest. Come by, say hi to us in the exhibit hall.
The exhibit hall, John Mackey calls the exhibit hall the trade show for liberty. And really that's where all the action is. That's where everybody meets and greets and eats, and you just spend so much time there. And the buzz, there's nothing like it. When you walk in on our Wednesday evening opening ceremonies, and then following, we have really nice food and drink and so forth as people enter the exhibit hall for opening ceremonies and our exhibit. There is a buzz there that you will not believe. It is just sensational. And you know what it is people with like-minded desires. We may differ on policy, but we have the same goals of freedom, and you make a lot of friends there. I mean, in fact, we've had people who have gotten married, have met and gone married at Freedom Fest. It's really
Let's
quite,
go.
How about that?
yeah.
Well, Mark, I'm going to be popping into a couple sessions this economic conference as well. We wanted to ask you some questions today about the tariffs.
Yeah.
That's on people's minds right now, especially with going to the grocery store. Everything's just getting more expensive lately. Let's dive in a little bit on that.
So there are two factors that are pushing prices higher. Both of them during the Trump administration. Certainly the Biden administration did their part in raising prices. Inflation was actually worse under the Biden administration. It got up to, the CPI raised up to 8% at one point. And now it's 3.8% in the last month by two principal causes. One is the tariff policies, the trade war that Trump started to engage in a pushback against globalization and to make America first and make sure that everything is manufactured and made in America and so forth. And that has, but it's expensive to produce products in the U.S. And so when you import products and you raise the tariffs and the duties on those by substantial amounts, I mean, 25% of the U.S. economy comes from trade from products overseas. So that's a pretty big impact. And the other one is, of course, the war. And you put the war and the gasoline prices and the price at the pump and so forth. Transportation is very much a part of our economy. So those oil prices have filtered into almost every aspect of investing. So put those two together, and the affordability problem is a very serious one. The president's up against the wall, if you will. The midterms are coming up. They're 6 months from now, and this is a dangerous fear that the Republicans are going to lose control of the House and maybe even the Senate as a result of these policies that have raised prices. Now, you do have the Federal Reserve that has entered into this, and there is definitely a connection.
But you know what, Mark? President Trump has cranked up the ERS, to the External Revenue Service. I just think we need to get rid of the IRS. If he got rid of the IRS and kept the ERS, I think it would change the game at midterms, and I think we could tell a real story that would be absolutely historical, precedent-setting. What do you say?
So, as a professor of economics, I do have a section, a chapter in my book, Economic Logic, on tax policy. And there isn't an ideal tax policy because there are fundamental things that government, legitimate purposes for government,
right.
in the
Sure.
Constitution, and its defense, and it's the Justice Department, and there's some elements of police and various aspects of education that
There's a proper role that must be
proper
funded. We
role of
agree.
government. Exactly.
Yes, sir.
And the key is the accountability principle, or also the benefit principle. Essentially, is if you benefit, you should pay. It's the user pay concept, which is the fundamental foundation of capitalism, that if you benefit from something, you should pay for it. And if you benefit more, you should pay more. Now, I think a simple flat tax is an ideal way for that to happen, either on a sales tax, a real estate tax, or an income tax, or what have you.
An apportionment tax.
Something that is linked to your use of government services.
What about government coming in and offering more and more services, per se? Are you benefiting? Where do you draw the line on saying I benefit from socialism?
But you're not paying for it. That's the problem. You see, the taxpayer is paying for it, but you as an individual are not necessarily paying for it. And the fact is that I think if you earn less than $40,000 a year, you don't pay any income tax at all while you're receiving benefits. That's a violation of the user accountability principle. So I like the Hong Kong model. Let's talk about something that really works, that's been around for 70 years. They haven't changed that policy at all. And basically what they have no sales tax. They have no tax on interest, dividends, or capital gains, but what they do have is an income tax, and it's slightly progressive. It starts at 2% and then gradually increases to 16.5%. That's it, maximum 16.5% if you earn 30,000 Hong Kong dollars or more, which is not a lot. So basically you have a flat tax with a very small progressive tax along the way. That has been so effective in Hong Kong, and they live within their budget, and they have become the richest country, if you will, in Asia, until, of course, the Chinese came back in and started clamping down on their freedoms in Hong Kong. So that's unfortunate. But I like that basic, simple policy. What do we do in America? We change our tax laws every 3 years on average. We're constantly tinkering with the various tax rates and stuff like that. That's one of the fundamental problems with democracy, is you're constantly playing games with the tax law. And so business has a harder time constantly trying to deal with all the changes. While in Hong Kong, they're virtually the same year. Nothing changes, so you can plan ahead.
Amen to that. And the stability in the economy is one of the critical things. And that's why what we really need with the tariffs is Congress to back the president and create stability in the marketplace. That instability, moral hazard is one of the greatest concerns, Mark.
Certainly, there is a problem with Congress reluctant to take on the responsibility of tariffs. The Article 8 of Section 1 of the Constitution, it's that Congress makes the decisions on tariffs and duties, and they've relegated that to the president, and that's a dereliction of duty, and I hold Congress responsible for that irresponsible decision making and forcing the president to be doing one executive order after another. And I agree with the Supreme Court. They shut that down, and they said, no, this is Congress's responsibility. Yes, I do. One thing I do favor the president's approach here is because there are many different kinds of non-tariff barriers to American products, from licensing and regulation that keeps our American products from getting into foreign companies. And so I like to put by President Trump on that to open up our exports. But when the trade war is finished, we need to have lower tariffs, not higher tariffs.
Amen, Jacob.
Where do we balance between making sure that we incentivize production at home, and we're looking out for our economy, make sure we have a good, strong national economy, versus centralizing too many things? There's too much centralized control and mitigating in the economy.
I think you have to be very careful there, because if you look at economic development, what you see is you start off with an agricultural economy like we did, and then we went to an industrial economy, and then we went to a service economy, and now we're more a service and knowledge.
Eventually it's going to be a token economy, right?
Knowledge economy and a financial. Look, manufacturing is still a very significant part of the American economy, and I'm very laissez-faire. I said, let the market decide what your level of is. You don't want to be artificially pumping up local. Look, India is a perfect example of this, where the hand looms are used in textile making and machines, and all day long they're doing this and so forth, because the government has prohibited the adoption of machinery or foreign of textiles. And it's been a real hampering. It's one reason India still has a huge percent of their population in poverty. So we need to, there's nothing wrong with globalization. In fact, I think that's the ultimate Christian point of view. Yes, if we lose jobs in America, but are we just ignoring the fact that Mexicans are far lower standard of living, or the Chinese, the far lower standard, we've given them hope for the first time. And we as Americans, we can adjust. We don't have to have a manufacturing job in order to make money. We can go into technology. We can go into the service industries. We don't have to do back-breaking work 24 hours a day in an automobile factory if those products are produced cheaper offshore. And this was the Adam Smith and his free trade, and he's the father of globalization. And America, all countries, we're the father of globalization overall, because we lowered our tariffs. We became the consumer society of the world, and the average tariff was 2.5%. I mean, that's hardly anything. And so we benefited as consumers for those cheap prices at Target and Walmart, and that's created jobs. It hasn't created the same manufacturing jobs. The economy is all about creative disruption. It's a dynamic economy. You can't just close the door to progress. There's always
The
change
key is to embrace it and learn to adapt, right?
and you learn to adapt. I ask my students, or when I speak to large audiences, I say, by a show of hands, how many of you have been laid off or been fired and have had to move to a different job? And almost every hand goes up, right? Because that's part of the dynamics, and we have learned to live with that. And yet it's not so disruptive. You can't have a successful career in.
Let me ask, the last line of the Fifth Amendment is often applied toward like coming in, taking houses for public road.
Eminent domain.
Eminent domain.
Sure.
But it doesn't say eminent domain. It's a vague principle to follow. It says the last line of the Fifth,
Takings clause.
neither shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think we navigate that with the national government?
Well, I'm certainly opposed to using this eminent domain commercial purposes, which is not necessarily for the general public benefit. I think it's mainly been used for highways, to open up freeways to go from A to B without going through a whole bunch of circular devices.
Would you say that our money is our property?
Money?
Yes, our income.
Yeah, of
I
course.
think that's where eminent domain is legitimate. You do have to the person in equal to the value of their property for sure. I think that's that perfect sense in that respect. The key here is to make sure it's a legitimate use of eminent domain.
And the key here in my mind is this: the general government has limits of what it can even have lands or, for dockyards, and, there's specific things. The states have greater latitude, but every time we must kind of ask ourselves the question, is it a proper use of property that they want to use eminent domain for? That's the first question you got to ask.
Right.
Because eminent domain, when it's not a legitimate constitutional use, whether it be the state constitution and or the general constitution, if they want to use land for a purpose that doesn't fall within their purview, if you will, then it's a non-starter, and eminent domain should never be used. If it's something that's legitimate with one of those responsibilities, then the question becomes, is there a better, simpler, more responsible way? And if all remedies have been exhausted, then we say, okay, this is what needs to happen, but let's make sure just compensation takes place. Mark, am I out in the weeds, or does this make sense?
No, absolutely makes sense. And of course, we've moved away from that with the justification for commercial use instead of public use for eminent domain, and that's wrong.
It's criminal, really.
Yeah, and I'd take that further. I'd say that because they didn't say land, they said property. I'd apply that toward any type of property that we have
Yeah, like I could take
including
the cowboy hat because I really need it. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
including our income. I think if the government comes in, takes from us, then infrastructure is not your just compensation. Uh, you're still owed a compensation, and so one way I think we can get to that is if rather than a national bank was private shareholders, if the people were the shareholders of the Federal Reserve System, it'd be a way that we are all invested in getting just compensation when the government comes and borrows from us. What are your thoughts on that, Mark?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean by that. Are you talking about?
Basically saying the Federal Reserve is controlled by 12 private banking cartels right now. If you were to transform the Federal Reserve into we the people, we're literally the stockholders or whatever you want to say, the stakeholders in that entity, then when we borrow from ourselves, at least there could be just compensation in terms of payback and responsibility. Is that the idea, Jacob?
Right.
Yeah, I don't really that, but I think what you want where you have a stable monetary system, good money, as they call it. And right now we have a very volatile, independent Federal Reserve that it can expand the money supply rapidly like they did in 2022. 2021, 22, inflation got out of control because the Federal Reserve expanded the money supply dramatically by 40%. That to me is criminal because it affects everybody. And even now, the inflation rate is significantly excessive. We don't have price stability, which is what our ultimate goal should be. And actually, prior to World War II, we had relative price stability. The only time prices went up was during wartime, and then they'd come back down. But since World War II, and I have a hockey stick chart that shows this, where prices were relatively stable, and then after World War II, they just kept going up and up and up. And there's a bunch of this, never-ending wars, creation of the Federal Reserve that was the engine of inflation. You have going off the gold standard, which I think was a big mistake. You have adoption of Keynesian economics, which was deficit spending forever. And finally, you had Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, which made the dollar a fiat currency as the world's currency. So
and then they tied it to oil, so it became kind of the oil dollar instead of the gold dollar. And what we really need to do is return to honest weights and measures. That's the constitutional remedy, and that is the solution, Mark.
Well, I actually like a world currency in terms of commodities. I do have that for oil and gold and a bunch of other commodities, and that you can more easily measure what the values are. It's just the problem is that we don't have a strong dollar. We have a weak dollar. That's because it's not linked to gold, and the Fed has actually adopted a policy of inflation. 2% a year is their goal, but they never even reached the goal, right? They never reached 2%. It's at 3.8% right now, and they still want to cut interest rates.
Yeah, I think it all comes back to sure we have sound money that the government is only collecting for things that it has the authority to do and is benefiting the public. These are sound principles we should be following, and we've drifted from.
Amen. But if you go to Freedom Fest, you can learn more about those principles, ladies and gentlemen. FreedomFest.com. If you use Liberty United 100, you can get a big discount. Would love to see you there. Mark Skousen, we know you got to fly, but do you have any last words for us?
Well, all I say is Ben Franklin. I've written a book called The Greatest American about Ben Franklin. I'll give you two quotes that are idealistic, but they do represent, I think, what America stands for. The first is, a virtuous and industrious people may be cheaply governed. Do we have cheap government today is the question mark. And what does that say about us? And second, foreign policy. The system of America is commerce with all and war with none. And unfortunately, we're violating both of those right now, too. So no wonder we're facing a lot of problems. But hopefully, I'm optimistic And at Freedom Fest, people walk away excited and upbeat about liberty and the future of our country. So I hope to see all of you there. And thank you very much for letting me be on the show.
God bless you and your work, Brother
Thank
Skousen.
you.
Talk to you soon, sir.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Jacob, do we want to just finish a little bit on some of these final questions that you had and stuff? We could just have a little bit more of a kind of fleshing this out. I do believe are legitimate. I believe the president acting alone is not. I think Congress has a dereliction of duty, as Mark Skousen wisely pointed out. We need to get Congress, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, and company to back the president. We need tariffs to be stable and consistent so that there's no moral hazard in the market. We need to yeet the Federal Reserve and return to constitutional, honest, biblical weights and measures, meaning gold and silver is our money, as the Constitution demands. And that would be a start of a stabilized, prosperous, asset-based, not debt-based, but asset-based economy.
Yeah, just to back that up, economic freedom and national strength are both things that matter. It's just a matter of that careful dance to make sure that things are not too centralized. And then also a free society needs fiscal responsibility, and just printing endless money is not in check with that.
Unless print endless money to my account and nobody else's, then it's fine. I'm just joking. I'm demonstrating the absurd by being absurd, right?
If we had kingship, I trust Sam Bushman. Well, this has been great to dive in with.
I'm not worthy to be a king. There's only one king, and it's King Jesus, and I'm worthy to be his servant and nothing more, sir.
Amen to that. Absolutely. Well, folks, we really appreciate you tuning in. Just remember to make sure you take advantage of that discount, Freedom Fest. Sam and I will be manning a booth there. Come say hi to us in the exhibit hall. We look forward to you tuning in to more content with us.
Spread the word, share the love, and God save our constitutional republic.
Godspeed.